Thank you very much to the International Maritime Organization and to the Department of Transport today for organising and inviting me to address you all today and to put together this great event, which is fantastic to see, as you say, in Durban. It is great to be also doing something like this in Durban. I work in Pretoria, not renowned as a particularly great maritime city in South Africa, but often it's a good way of illustrating how dependent we are upon safe and secure seas and growing blue economies and maritime security. Last year, for instance, here in Durban, a ship broke its moorings in a storm and blocked the entrance to the harbour. Now, that was a pretty spectacular event, but it also raised some very significant questions and issues, because Durban is a major hub and gateway into the region, not just for South Africa and cities like Pretoria and Johannesburg inland, but countries inland like Zambia and Zimbabwe too. That kind of disruption is a particularly concerning, it could have a particularly concerning impact. And that is something which is potentially going to emerge more in the future, because there will be more traffic in the future. African economies are projected to grow, populations are projected to grow. With the implementation of various strategies and codes and conventions, there will be more shipping. And that is something which we can all endeavour to gain better awareness of, and effectively, in the end, share that information for better decision making. The ISS has endeavoured, thank you for the introduction, for the last couple of years, to try and advance the understanding of what maritime security is, to not just include the prevention of threats to shipping, but to think long-term and comprehensive. How will we be able to feed ourselves in the future with fewer maritime resources? There is a growing coastal community or growing coastal cities around Africa. There's going to be more press and stress upon those resources, and planning for that now, and planning that in a common and cooperative fashion is the key way forward. And that's why workshops such as this will have a great impact in the future. We're often trying to cast quite a wide net over a lot of issues. There are many issues which in effect we focus on for a time and then move on. But to try and gain a common perspective, a common position or picture on that through information sharing, through gaining maritime situational awareness and domain awareness, is going to be a crucial anchor for all sorts of planning and support for implementation. We are clearly gathering a lot of data, we are clearly gaining a better understanding, and what we know is not often shared, and there's still a lot we don't know. So the benefits of maritime domain awareness are, as I say, growing, but still perhaps are not as a higher political priority as they could be. And this is unfortunate. Just to borrow a little more from the stage metaphor, the scene-setting metaphor, African waters are a stage. They are a stage for some of the most interesting and potentially influential geopolitics and international relations of the future. Piracy being a major window into understanding state interests, shipping interests, and what is going to happen in terms of how we will effectively govern the seas in the future. And also, as has just been mentioned now, that there is a growing appetite and a growing interest in discussing maritime. I'm often discussing maritime with my colleagues in that sense. It's still not particularly being understood or the concept being developed as such, but around the idea of the blue economy there is incredible interest and appetite, particularly over the last few months, where the upcoming event in Nairobi has garnered a lot of interest, particularly around the potential which is being stressed at the moment. But there are also other scenes or other stages which need to be integrated into that thinking. The growing concerns over the health of our oceans, with growing levels of plastic pollution, with acidity and sea level rises, and whether the infrastructure which is being developed is going to be aligned with the kind of long-term planning which regional states, and I stress here particularly in Africa, are developing or need. There's growing need for more research around the impact of those. And that's why landmark achievements such as the Djibouti Code of Conduct in 2009 and its Jeddah amendments are very important, especially how it factors into national planning, and as been talked as already, the need for national focal points and the optimism around that and how that can be aligned together to drive forward that very crucial political will and political high-level advocacy which is required to make sure they're a success. Within South Africa, for instance, there is a national project to develop ocean and coastal information management systems, which is demonstrating some of the key kind of lessons of coordination at the national level, and how there's a need for those results to be communicated. We are often talking of the problem or the concept of sea blindness, tackling sea blindness and how to overcome it. And one of the crucial ways of gaining awareness so we know what is going on at sea is that everybody knows what is going on in terms of our creation of that awareness. And looking ahead, the political priorities and capacity will need enhancing. There's going to be tremendous scope for partnerships, because this is not something which can be done in isolation or, as you say, in stovepipes and silos. There are common threats. They're going to require common solutions. Stressing the negative is not always going to be sufficient. There's growing transnational crime threats. The growth of blue economies is going to leave often economies very vulnerable and lacking resilience, because there will be an infiltration. As I mentioned earlier, the biodiversity problem in the future, the oceans are not as hospitable to life as they used to be, and the growing stress on resources. And that's why maritime domain awareness is going to provide those crucial decision support tools for development, and development in terms of spatial planning, assistance in search and rescue, and things like aquaculture, being able to predict the rise of red algae blooms, for instance, will actually have a major impact, and that can be integrated into those systems too. And the importance, sorry, I'll skip this slide. The importance of efforts at the African Union then are going to be very crucial. It's been rather a stop-start process, and looking at the Lome Charter in particular and the 2050 AIM strategy, those include institutions for the creation and sharing of maritime domain awareness and information. And the progress there still needs to be supported. Here as well, at the national level, but also remember as well that under the concepts of the 2050 AIM strategy, inland waters are included now for consideration. There's been some interesting developments in Lake Victoria with Magingo Island, but also in terms of the safety of life at sea on lakes and the potential there for development. How we integrate that and align those are some pressing questions too. Finally, I just want to focus with the little time I think I have left, on a map of our region here, where South Africa, for instance, has been patrolling against piracy since 2011. But there's also been tremendous gas discoveries in Mozambique. There are disputes over the sovereignty of islands, and there is a growing network of maritime domain awareness centres. This particular region is going to host or be a site for some of the most interesting and potentially, I would say, impactful international relations developments going forward in terms of the development of gas, about how we choose to defend ourselves, and also the kind of frameworks which can be set up to share information and improve international relations as well. Maximising those potentials is going to be key. Sharing relevant information is going to enable us to stay ahead of threats, but also enhance the very kind of cooperation which today's workshop and others will eventually establish and consolidate. Thank you very much. I've, like I say, very great pleasure to welcome you all and to address you all today. Thank you very much for the invitation, and looking forward to engaging with you over the next 3 days.